I'm Jemima Hughes. Thank you for inviting me to talk about animation in my films. I've been involved with One Voice for 22 years, as a child, a teenager and a role model. I'm 32. I went to Northern Counties School for the Deaf and Percy Headley College in Newcastle. I've been making short animations and films since I was a teenager, and I've made 3 commissioned animations for Channel 4 and the BBC, as well as lots of little homemade no-budget films. I'm going to tell you a bit about my filmmaking journey and explain how I make films, what I can do independently, and what support I use. I access my communication aid and my computer with my voice switch. I use picture word power on my communication aid and Grid 3 mouse control software on my desktop. I use it for film editing and to control my animation software, as well as everything else I want to do on the computer. One Voice played a big part in my dream of being a filmmaker. I was always interested when my dad videoed holidays and family events, and because I'm profoundly deaf and think in British Sign Language, visual storytelling, on television and in films, was always important for me. My first experience of how a real film is made was at a One Voice weekend at Blackpool, when I was 11. When we made a film about our likes and dislikes called Banana Pizza. I loved that. It's a really fun film. Later, at a One Voice Teenage Project weekend, we made Listen to Me with a professional film crew and had the opportunity to see them working on the rough cut edit. I was really interested and keen to learn more about editing films. The following year, the Teenager Weekend focused on dreams and aspirations. I told everyone I wanted to be a filmmaker, and in the workshop I planned my next steps. After that, I got involved in filmmaking projects at school and college. I tried my first stop-motion animation at the Tyneside Cinema in Newcastle, in a workshop for teenagers to celebrate the Angel of the North's 10th birthday party. I passed the angel sculpture every day in my school taxi. It's quite special to me. Stop-motion animation is handmade using either 3D models, like Aardman animations such as Wallace and Gromit, or 2D paper-cut shapes, which is how I created my traffic jam passing the angel. You set up with the scene, take a photo with the camera on a tripod, move things a tiny bit, then take another photo, and so on. Animators usually take about 12 photos for 1 second of animation, so it takes a long time, but it's fun and not difficult to make little clips. Animation software puts all the photos together on a timeline to create the impression of things moving. I made an animation advertising One Voice weekends for my schoolwork experience project at the Able to Media Center. That was the first film I planned myself. I learned about storyboarding and shooting with green screen. That's a green background which can be removed in editing and replaced with a photo to create the impression that the film was shot in a location. I recorded the voiceover and discovered that stop-motion animation is very slow. My short film was not really finished after 2 weeks hard work. For my college media course, I made a film about friendship and communication, and learned to edit photos and video clips on a timeline and add music and subtitles. I moved to Kent in 2013. My plan to do a BTech in Arts and Media at a local college didn't work out, but in 2014 I discovered I could work with the filmmaker, Dom, at Touch Base Care in Folkestone, a center offering creative activities to disabled adults, where I followed a 6-month filmmaking course. I learned a lot, participated in group films and directed one. I also followed 2 online filmmaking and animation courses with Futura Learn. That works well for me because it's free, accessible with my computer control, and I can work at my own pace. I made a short paper-cut animation, I Dream, about my wild dreams of swimming and flying in my wheelchair. The style was inspired by Matisse paper cuts, which use simple shapes and bright colors. That's a good style for me, because although I don't have independent hand function, I love art and can draw simple shapes with support. I then direct my PAs to cut out and move the shapes. I Dream was the first film I edited independently with my Switch. Before that, when I edited films I needed a PA to be my hands and follow my directions. Editing with Switch scanning is very slow and hard work, but I was so excited when that worked. Now, young AAC users can access computers and the internet a lot more easily than I could 20 years ago. In 2015, Dom encouraged me to apply for an Arts Council opportunity for young filmmakers to make a 3-minute random acts film for Channel 4. I planned another Matisse-inspired film about my imagination bringing pictures to life. The selection process was a bit scary, with a long interview, but the panel gave me time to speak and I was successful. Screen South in Folkestone produced my film and were really supportive. My mum and my peer Suzanne supported me with planning and preparing everything, and we hired a studio and worked with an animator and editor to make a broadcast quality film. Directing the shoot was hard work, but I loved it. It was magical seeing my pictures coming to life. Making Imagination was a fantastic opportunity. I learned so much about working with a professional team. It was screened at about 15 film festivals around the world, and is now part of the British Film Institute Disabled Britain on Film Collection and the Interfilm selection of short films for use in schools. After that, thanks to a local charity, Screen South and the Arts Council, I was awarded funding for equipment to shoot good quality animation in my bedroom. I have a digital SLR camera, a tripod with a horizontal arm to shoot 2D stop motion, lights, blackout blinds and dragon frame stop motion software. That's the industry standard stop motion software. It's complex but good to use. Because of my support and access needs and slow work rate, it's not practical for me to look for employment in animation, but with the home studio I can go on making independent short films, enter festivals and apply for commissions. In 2018 I discovered the new BBC Ideas website. They were inviting pitches for short films for curious minds and were open to independent filmmakers. I planned an animation to explain about AAC. I was excited and nervous when they accepted my proposal. I asked Screen South to help with production. I wrote my ideas for the script and my mum worked with me to improve my deaf English. I tried to find clear, visual and fun ways to present the information and my mum helped draw the storyboard. Suzanne did lots of cutting out. We took photos to try different designs and colors, and I programmed the voiceover. We shot the animation in my bedroom studio. That took about 6 weeks working most days. Then Mike edited, Craig composed the music, and I exchanged lots of emails with the BBC editor discussing changes. The film went online in 2019, and quickly had several thousand views on the website. I was excited that it was featured as If You Watch One Thing Today on the BBC News homepage, and it was widely shared on social media. I'm happy that it has been used to train people like speech therapists, school staff and peers, and I hope it's helped to improve awareness of what's involved in communicating with AAC. My most recent commissioned animation is Unbound, made with Screen South for the BBC Arts and Arts Council England new creative scheme for filmmakers under 30. Schemes like this were quite inclusive and supportive to me as a disabled filmmaker. Unbound is an abstract animation, with colourful shapes cut out from paper which I painted with my PA, and it challenges the way I'm described and pitied as wheelchair-bound, and shares my joy in exciting activities, through colour, animation and music. The shapes are inspired by Kandinsky, who is one of my favourite abstract artists. I was commissioned to make Unbound just before the first COVID lockdown in March 2020, and was shielding throughout the whole period I was working on it. We shot the film at home, and the meetings and collaboration with the production team took place online. That was accessible and practical for me. I finished early in 2021, and Unbound was broadcast on BBC4 the following December. Since then it's been in festivals in several countries and won 3 awards. Making films is important to me. I want my work to express my identity as a deaf and disabled filmmaker, and I want the voices of AAC users to be represented and heard more in the media. I also want to make subtitles part of my film, and insisted my commissioned films should have open subtitles that everyone sees. I take care to choose fonts and colors which are clear to read but also work well visually with the animation. I've explained a bit about how I make animations, what techniques and equipment I use, what I can do independently and what I can do with support. Most films are made by teams of people. The director doesn't do everything, and lots of disabled artists work with assistants. I like to do as much as I can myself, but I also think it's fine to use support where I need it to make films that communicate my messages and artistic vision. If you want to try some stop-motion animation, you can start with a smartphone or tablet. You just need a stand or something to keep the camera still and software or an app to combine your photos into a video clip. And you need time and patience to experiment and see what works. You can cut out backgrounds from magazines or photos, or make your own with collage or painting, and animate little objects or toys. There are lots of free apps if you search online. I've not explored them, but I've listed some links to some software and websites that might be useful, and my contact details if you want to look at my work or ask me anything. I hope you have a great One Voice weekend and enjoy making films. That's how I started.